Hello again, welcome to Chess Base Workshop. My name is Steve Lopez. Thank you for clicking that link and joining us. I get comments about Chess Base Workshop, about all the work that I do. I do chess videos for a number of different outfits. And one of the things that I hear occasionally from people is that I don't do enough to help beginners, which is basically correct. Guilty as charged. One of the things that happens when you do videos about this software, about Fritz and chess-based software, is that you don't know who you're talking to. You're talking to any level of chess player. There's stuff in this software that can be used by people who just learned how the pieces moved yesterday, the whole way up to somebody like Victor Korchnoi, who's been playing this game for decades and of course is a international grandmaster and former world championship challenger. Anybody who can play chess, no matter how poorly or how rudimentary their knowledge, can use this software. And I usually tend to shoot somewhere in the middle. You know, I go for the class, if you're a USCF player, the class A through D player who's trying to improve. That's generally been my target audience. But I've been reminded recently that I don't do a lot of videos for people who are just starting out in chess. And as it turns out, that's true enough because, for example, in the United States, there are some older versions of Fritz that are available in big box chain stores like Walmart, Kmart, Target, where you can buy a little jewel box version of Fritz, albeit an older version, but you can buy it for $10 now. So people who just learned how to play chess might be buying Fritz and be overwhelmed not only by the software itself, how well it plays, but also by the number of features in the program. So I've decided to go back and do a few things for some beginning players to help you as a chess player. You know, help you try to improve using, we're going to look at Fritz software. Because if you're just starting out as a chess player, the best thing you can do is just play. I mean, play as much chess as you can. Unfortunately, for most people, the Fritz software is a little bit much. I mean, it plays very strong chess, and for a beginner that can be very frustrating. So how do you get a different game out of Fritz? How do you get an easier game from it so you don't get your head tore off every time? Well, the first thing people will try to do is go to levels, set a fixed time, and set it for a very low number, like, 1 second or something, and try to play a game. And the problem is that it's not going to work out for you. And I'll show you, I'll demonstrate right now. I've picked a game at random from a database that I was in, a game from 1897. We've got a middle game position here, and I'm going to click to show you how quickly Fritz analyzes. I'm going to turn infinite analysis on and then turn it off again. Just, like this. 1001, we turn it off. And the software has stopped. It ran for about a second, maybe a hair less. And in that time, it reached a search depth of 12. That's 12 plies. That's 12 half moves. That's a move for each player 12 times. Meaning that in 1 second, Fritz has looked 6 moves ahead. Now, that would be like sitting down at a chess club with a player who just starts snapping moves off instantaneously. You make a move, bam, he makes a move. Then you got to think for a while. You make a move, bam, he makes a move. And not only is he making moves, but he's making moves where he's seen 6 moves ahead. You're not going to win that game if you're a beginner. So number one, you need an easier engine. Now I'm going to have to give you some verbal instructions because this computer that I'm on right now making this video with, I'm not on the internet. And I've talked about this time and time again, why I don't put this laptop on the internet. All the stuff that you have to put on a computer to protect yourself from the internet basically degrades video performance. So to make videos, I can't put this computer online. So I'm going to tell you what to do. You go to chessbase.com, and when you're there, you'll see a link near the top of the page called Service and Download. Click on that link. You'll see a pull-down box of different sub-areas that you can go to, and one of them will say Engines. Click on Engines, and you'll see a list of downloadable engines, additional chess engines that you can use in the Fritz/Ribka interface, and one of them is called Turing. You'll find an executable. It's T-U-R-I-N-G, Turing. It's named for Alan Turing, who was a brilliant English mathematician. I'm not even going to try to describe all of his accomplishments to you, although I'm well aware of them. The guy helped win World War II by code breaking, and then went on to be really the father of computer science. One of them. I think, you know, you could probably get Turing and Claude Shannon into a death match over, you know, who was the real father of computer science. But he was one of the founding fathers of this whole thing. And he created a chess engine back in the early 1950s. And it's not very good. It's very weak. Our programmers have created a Fritz chess engine based on Alan Turing's formula, his algorithm for playing chess. You can download it. It's an executable file. Download it, run it, and you'll be able to run Turing within the Fritz interface. And the way you get to it is you can, well, one way to do it is you hit F3 on your keyboard. That's been the shortcut for so long that I just naturally do it. And when you do, you'll get a scrolling list of all the different programs, engines that you have installed on your computer. I have quite a few here that I've gotten online, purchased, got online, had sent to me, you name it. I've got a ton, and this is just a fraction of all the ones that are available. Here's old Turing. Click on it, and that will load the Turing engine. And you can see right here, it's got a different little logo. It's the old code breaker stuff from the war. And down here, Turing is loaded. Now, it doesn't analyze very quickly, and it doesn't analyze very well. For example, we turn it on, we turn it off, and we see now that in 1 second or slightly less, Turing has looked 2 moves ahead instead of 6. And the other thing is that its analysis algorithm isn't very good, so it's not going to play very good chess. It's going to look 4 moves ahead in 1 second, but it's going to not evaluate properly. So this is a much better engine for beginners to play against. So I recommend it highly. There's another one that was called German for Black King. König Schwarz, I believe, is the name of it. If you can still find that one, if it's out there kicking around online, that's another good one for beginning players. Anyway, now that you have an easier engine loaded, there's other things you can do to get an easier game out of Fritz. I'm going to show you one of them, and I actually like this a lot. It's really cool. I'm a big fan, as you know if you've watched my videos, of chess from before 1900. I'm just endlessly fascinated by the chess masters of the 1800s. And one of the things these guys used to do when they were playing against weaker opposition, you had a guy who was an acknowledged chess master, would play against Joe Average, you know, chess player or the man in the street per se, would offer odds games, which meant you take a piece off the board, and the stronger player takes a piece off the board and plays a man down from the start of the game. I've used this technique a ton when I'm teaching people to play chess, particularly children. I will typically give them what's called odds. I'll start with queen odds. I did this with my own children. We played for years with queen odds. When they got a little bit too good for that, then we did rook odds, and we finally, now that they're older, we're playing straight up one-on-one. Everybody starts with a full complement of pieces. You can play odds games in Fritz. Fritz will give you odds, and I'll show you how to get there. First of all, you want to go to training. Up here at the top, you have all these different menu options. Click on the training menu. When this ribbon comes up, you'll see a command here called handicap position. Click on that. And this gives you different handicaps where Fritz will start with material down. For example, if you select pawn and click OK, Fritz is ready to play. Fritz will randomly remove a pawn. The last time I tried this, this pawn was missing. The H2 pawn was gone. So it will randomly remove a pawn. Let's see if we can take another one off. Yeah, see, now we have the knight pawn over there. The G2 pawn is missing. It will randomly remove a pawn, and you may begin. You can start playing by hitting the space bar, and the program will play, and you can play against it, and you're starting material up. As I said, this is a time-honored tradition. And there were tons of odds games in the 1800s, different handicaps that the stronger player would give. Pawn and move, for example. In this case, a black pawn is removed. Black has removed a pawn and is giving you the first move as white, so it's called pawn and move. Here you can pick particular pawns. Pawn F7 and move, pawn F7 and 2 moves, pawn F7 and 3 moves. And the way this is done is interesting. We'll go here, pawn F7 and move. F7 pawn is missing, exposing the king. That is traditionally the weakest square on the board. for either player, where your F pawn resides, because the only piece that is protecting this square is the king. Same for white. So, for example, you could play e4, and if black was to be silly enough to allow it, you could whip the queen over here, and all kind of mayhem can ensue. That's the old fool's mate. However, there are other ones, F pawn and 2 moves, in which case Fritz actually makes the first move for you. Fritz says, okay, well, the logical move is the e4 pawn, so we'll push that one ahead. The same with f7 pawn and 3 moves. The f7 pawn is missing, and the 2 center pawns have come out, and now white can move again. So there are all kinds of handicap positions here. Queen, of course, where the white player has his queen removed. A little bit tougher for the handicapped player will be queen and move. Here black has removed his queen and is allowing you the first move as white. I realize there are a lot of players in our egalitarian society these days. There are a ton of players that don't like playing odds games. In fact, part of the reason why I don't teach adults to play chess anymore is this idea that if you give them a handicap in their very first game. I mean, I've been playing chess for nearly a half century. They get very offended that you want to take a piece off the board, not realizing, they never played chess, or they've only played a couple games. They don't realize what they're in for. Even from an average player like myself, they get very offended they will not remove a piece from the board. Instead, they're going to want unlimited takebacks. And of course, if you give somebody unlimited takebacks, number one, the game never ends, and number two, they always win. And then, of course, they do a little happy dance, and I beat the chess guy, and they think that's real funny. But kids have no problem with recognizing what they can't do or what they're not good at. Kids tend to be more realistic than adults, in my experience. So when I teach kids to play chess, and I still do that occasionally, we will play odds games. And when they have increased their skills to the point where I don't have to take a queen off anymore, as I said, I'll move to a rook, whatever, the software allows you to do this. The software lets you play odds games against it. There is no shame if you're a beginning player in playing odds games against the computer. There is no shame in this at all. No one knows but you and the computer. So if you're an adult, let Fritz remove pieces from the board, and if you want an even easier game, select Turing as your engine instead of Fritz or Ribka or Shredder Hierarchs Jr. Use this free Turing engine you can get at chessbase.com, because it plays pretty bad chess. So when you get to the point where you're comfortable enough with your game that you don't feel the need to play odds games anymore, or if you're beating Turing on a regular basis, even when it's giving you odds, for example, start with queen odds. If you're winning those games, move to rook and knight, for example. And when you start winning those games regularly, pick something like just rook. In other words, you can start at the bottom here and just work your way up the list until you finally reach a point where Fritz or Turing, whatever engine you're using, only gives you a pawn. And when you're beating it regularly at this level, you're ready for a little more of a challenge. You're ready to step up a little bit. Either put a stronger chess engine in if you're using Turing, or if you're using Fritz and you're beating Fritz where, where it gives you pawn odds, I question the fact at that point that you're even playing handicap games. If you're playing a regular full strength chess engine, even if it's giving you 1 or 2 pawn odds, if you're getting where you're beating it, you don't need to be playing odds games. But just work your way up the list. If you're a beginning player, start at the bottom, work your way up until you get to pawn, and when you start winning with pawn odds, it's time to move on to another level, either a stronger chess engine or one of the other modes in this software that you can use to get an easier game. And we'll look at another one of these the next time around in Chess Base Workshop. Till then, please do have fun.